On Tuesday, the embattled national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Dr. Iyorchia Ayu, was compelled by the party's National Working Committee, NWC, to step aside in deference to a restraining order by the Benue High Court on Monday. However, pending the outcome of the case of Antiparty suit against Dr. Ayu, the deputy national chairman of the party, Ambassador Iya Damagum, is now acting as chairman of the party. In a brief acceptance speech, Damagum said the National Working Committee will review some of the issues that have been raised and also later summon a meeting of the National Working Committee to review some of the controversial decisions responsible for the latest development in the party. Joining us now from Kaduna State is Umar Sani, a PDP chieftain and former special advisor on media to former Vice President Namadi Sambo. Umar Sani the cat, good morning.
Dr. Abati, it's nice to be with you.
Good morning.
And I extend my greetings to Mr. Rufai Hussaini.
Okay.
I'm hearing you, sir. Good morning, sir. Bless you, sir.
So, Umar Sani the cat, just take us through what is going on in the People's Democratic Party, particularly with the position of the chairman of the party, who insists that the ward or a committee at the state level is not in a position to suspend any member of the National Executive Committee, of the National Working Committee, that only the NEC has that power, quoting Section 57, subsection 7 of the party's constitution. But the court, having ruled, having granted an ex parte injunction, and now saying the case has been adjourned till April 17, the party says, well, as a lawful organ, it must respect the judgment of the court. But what's your own take in all of this? Is it, as Senator Ayu argues, an exercise in futility? Is it, as he argues, the handiwork of mischief makers? One of them having identified himself, Governor Wike of Rivers State, saying that Ayu is gone and is a gunner. Is he truly gone?
Well, let me start, Dr. Abati, by telling you that this style of removing national chairman did not start with Dr. Iyorchia Ayu. It started with Prince Uche Secondos. The same scenario, the same everything, except, of course, the demography is different. Now, in the case of Uche Secondos, his ward was said to have suspended him. It was ratified by his local government, and given a stamp of the authority by the state government, and then the judiciary issued an ex parte order, which he respected, as a party that respects the rule of law. Now, the same situation the judiciary compounded. Now, on the issue of Secondos, because of the hula baloo that it has generated over time, it was an issue that drew the attention of the National Judicial Council, the NJC. The NJC, for the first time, had never investigated any case on its own except through a petition sent to it. But on that issue, the NJC made a very tacit investigation. And then they came out with the issue, with the fact that there was no justification for even the actions that were taken by the courts, because there was no urgency for the ex parte order, and I think the statement was released by Honorable Justice Mary Odili, who said there was no hurry. There was an ex parte order ought to be given if there was something that was going to affect something which was in a hurry, and there was no hurry in that respect. So the NJC now ruled that such type of cases has to be done within the FCT, the Federal Capital Territory. However, our judiciary is used to blatant disregard of even their own orders. Now, how can a high court in Makurdi grant an ex parte order, on such matters, when even those people who actually suspended Ayu they had no powers to do that? Ayu is a member of NEC and is the chairman of NEC. And being the chairman of NEC, nobody has any authority to suspend him except the NEC itself. And the NEC cannot even suspend him until there is cogent and verifiable reason of any offense that he is alleged to have committed, and which the NEC is satisfied that such an offense had been committed before he can even be suspended. So I think, going with what Ayu has said, I believe him that it is only an exercise in futility. It's merely for an egoistic journey to be able to say, I told you I'm going to remove him, and I'll be able to remove him, even if it is temporary. But the fact of the matter is that if the courts are supposed to uphold the rule of law and do the necessary things, and that there is no any external influence in the decision of the court, I think on the 17th of April, the ex parte order will have been lifted, and Ayu will be back to his office performing the statutory functions of the national chairman of the party. I do not believe that even where issues have been raised, before the National Working Committee, the National Working Committee cannot, because a ward has raised an issue, go ahead and suspend him, and then take certain steps to try to remove him permanently. For Damagum to have said that they were going to investigate the matter, I don't think it is within their purview to investigate any matter, when someone has been suspended by a court of law. Now, since the matter is before a court of law, and they have to wait for the outcome of the court. Whichever decision that the court takes supersedes any decision that the party will take on any matter with regards to this. So I believe that when Ayu goes before the court and the ex parte order is lifted, he will come back, and if there is any issue, if the petition has also been submitted to the NEC of the party for the anti-party activities, then the National Working Committee, in consultation with the Board of Trustees and other relevant stakeholders, will now decide to say, okay, Ayu, step aside, let us set up a committee to investigate these allegations. This is what our party has always stood for. This is what our party has said. And so there is no any individual or any group of individuals that will go and sit down and plot somebody's removal, and I think they can succeed. The fact of the matter is that I believe, in my own opinion, that Ayu also has an issue, which I believe, he didn't handle all the issues of the G5 and so forth very well, because I have come to the conclusion that why was it necessary for him to expel distinguished Senator Chimaroke Namani, whose anti-party activities was not even pronounced, if not for the fact that we who are on Twitter spaces and so forth and so on, his activities were not too damaging to the party, to the extent that he can make us win or lose in any election. But look at the G5, where there are sitting governors who are now waging war against the party. And one of them, who is their lead spokesperson, comes out every day in the form of commissioning projects to come and denigrate or lambast either the presidential candidate or the national chairman of the party or any other person he deems fit that he will insult on the podium. So what is the issue? Why did Ayu not suspend him? And I think the man and even Otom, when they discovered that they were going to, their cases were referred, his case, Otom's case was referred to the disciplinary committee, and some other actions were taken against Iyorchia Ayu and some others. you know, they decided to now hatch this plan to be able to remove him.
Okay, so a couple of things. Number one, you said why didn't they push out Wike that kept on talking and his anti-party activity was damaging? But it was because Governor Wike went to court, all right, you know, restraining them to be able to do that to him. Yeah. Secondly, the argument of the fact that, yes, you feel he'll be able to get his way around it, you know, but we all remember the case of Sekondu. We also remember the case of Adams Oshomole, that once it goes to court, it's a very hard battle to fight. So what do you think will be different as regards this? Thirdly, you talked about the case of Chimaroke Nama. A lot of people too will say, yes, he was on Twitter, anti-party activity, supporting another presidential candidate against the presidential candidate of your own party, the PDP. I mean, what will you say to those, you know, 3 points I enumerated? The fact that people are saying that Ayu might be as good as gone.
No, I don't think so. Because if you take a look at the issue of Iyorchia Secondos, you see, the matter affects the state of the governor who wanted him to go out. And I think the judiciary in that state really compromised to ensure that the thing didn't, they were supposed to have vacated the order. But because of the intervention of the NJC in this matter, and because of the disciplinary action that was taken on all the 3 justices that ruled on the matter, a justice in Kebbi High Court, a justice in the Port Harcourt High Court, and a justice in Cross River State High Court, because of the decisions of the NJC, it actually affected, you know, the decisions, anything that will come up now in that guise. You know, the NJC had already nip it in the bud with their decisions. So I think the judge will also be very careful not to play or toe the line of what happened in Port Harcourt. Secondly, the issue of whether Ayu is gone because Adams Oshomole left, and you see, the issue of Adams Oshomole's case is that it had the tacit support of Mr. President, and so there were, and Adams Oshomole, you know, attempted to go to court and then discovered that it was a voyage in futility. Even if he had a court order, because it is a ruling party, the party may not be willing to bring him back. And so it was very thoughtful of him to withdraw, so that at the end of the day, he will come out smoking. And now during this election, he had come out smoking, you know, becoming very relevant in the whole scheme of things. But I do not believe that Ayu will go. And then thirdly, the issue you raised on whether, please, can you remind me, Mr. Rufai,
so I also,
the last issue you raised? I think I've touched on 2 issues.
Yes, I also raised the issue on the comparison of, you know, what constitutes anti-party activity. I said, you talked about former Governor Chimaroke Namadi, but he was clearly supporting an opposition to the PDP's presidential candidate, which a lot of people say is the height of anti-party activities.
Yes. Yes. Now, what is more anti-party activity than somebody who is every day on the rostrum abusing the national chairman, every day on the rostrum abusing the presidential candidate, every day on the rostrum refusing the party to campaign in River State, you know, revoking even the license, the certificate of occupancy of the campaign office of the party, making incendiary statements claiming that the party cannot win, and that by a certain point time they will announce their choice of presidential candidate, meeting with other presidential candidates in other parts of the world, you know, and discussing with various presidential candidates, trying to make a choice out of this president. When your party presents a presidential candidate, you have no other choice. The choice is that presidential candidate. So when you begin to negotiate with other presidential candidates, that is also a great act of anti-party activity. And these things are not hidden. They are all into the public domain. If they are hidden and there is no evidence to that effect, then that is where the issue will arise. But the issues are not hidden. They are there, and they are in the public domain, and people have seen it, and they have even come out to confess it. You know, when the president-elect, Senator Tinubu, was trying to say, I never met with Wike, the party came out to say, please don't lie. You met with the G5 Wike group in London and you took a certain position. So these are very clear things that have happened for an anti-party. And for Wike to have gone to court preempting the outcome of whether a decision to be taken by the party, I think it is Ayu that was a little bit slow. Because as at the time they invited Chimaroke and they took certain, Wike had not gone to court. I think that was what fueled his determination to ensure that he is also not suspended. And I think Otom also went to court for the same purpose. So I think the issue is not, it is that the national chairman was very weak in taking decision as to what to do with Wike, because if he had suspended him, then he will have no low custody to go to court to go and seek for an order stopping the National Executive Committee or whatever. Yes.
Okay, I see the point you are trying to make about the court, the High Court in Benue, granting the interim injunction. Yeah. Well, that's a problem that has remained unabated. Yeah. For the Nigerian judiciary. Chief Justices of Nigeria, Chief Judges of the Federal High Court have always raised issues about the abuse of ex parte injunctions. Ladune versus Kukoyi, Globe Fishing Industries versus Chief Folarin Koka. But it's a problem we will continue to deal with. But the only thing is that an injunction has a limit until, as the court pointed out, the motion on notice is hard and determined. So there's date and time attached to it. But the question I really want to ask you is about the soul of PDP. The People's Democratic Party now at the national level has lost elections back to back 3 times. How is all of this about the soul of the PDP? Do you think that the PDP can survive the crisis?
You see, Dr. Abati, I don't think that the PDP had lost election in a free and fair contest. I say this with all sense of responsibility, believing that if what was given in 2015 is what was received in 2019 and 2023, I think there will long have been a change of government. But that is not what was given, because when Jonathan was there, the argument has been that the Justice Uwe's report has to be implemented to the letter. And, with the benefit of hindsight, Jega introduced a system which has never been tested nationally to prove its efficacy. Again, that system was used, the smart card reader was used. And in certain parts of the country, it failed woefully. In fact, the president was even unable to validate his own thing. He had to use incident form, including his wife. Ordinarily, that system ought to have been said to have failed. Again, even when we went to court, that instrument was not even an instrument that the court was trying to look at, because the Supreme Court decided in a landmark decision that they took in several of such cases, said that the smart card reader is not a substitute to the voters register. It is not intended to supplant the voters register, but only to complement it, and that it is not even part of the law that regulates it. So you cannot use the smart card reader as an instrument to make any claim of overvoting or so forth and so forth and so on. However, here in 2023, the reverse is the case. There is the BVAS, which has the backing of the law, and which is what the law has recognized. And INEC, in their rules and guidelines, have given procedures, and they have convinced Nigerians that these are what we will do to ensure free, fair, and credible election. And in the first election, in all the promises INEC made, in fact, INEC said they were not going to use professors. They were only going to use workers. They used professors. They said they were not going to they were going to, the result would be uploaded real time. It was not uploaded real time. There was not going to be any manual accreditation. There was manual accreditation. They were going to allow for review. There was no review. So many things didn't go well with the way INEC is. So it appears that it is a well-planned and a hatchet job to ensure that the party fails. So the party has never been failing. If you look at some other parts of the country, the party has been performing. And most of the hues and cries over the outcome of the decisions of the party are predicated on rigging, and some other ancillary factors that are antithetical to the development, to credible elections. So the PDP, as an opposition, will remain very vibrant, will remain the same. The competition now has moved to the Supreme Court, and so many issues have been raised by both the PDP and the Labour Party before the court. So if the courts, the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court, have adjudicated on these matters, we will now be able to understand, for instance, whether the two-thirds of 36 and Abuja is conjunctive, and that if somebody does not secure 25% in Abuja, then it means that there is a room for a runoff election. And if there is a room for a runoff election, what happens? Will there be a coalition? Will there be, an understanding? Will there be something that will now make the opposition to triumph over the ruling party? So we believe that I think the process is not yet over, because, as you know, the electoral process starts from party primaries and it terminates, at the judicial, at the Supreme Court or the relevant courts.
Well, thank you very much, Umar Sani, for joining us this morning on The Morning Show.